devoted my entire life to painting and creating, putting it all on the line each day as I rise to the challenge of art. My art, which is everything to me, is ever aflame with infinite love for the universe, and this wonderful fire still burns. To flash through time unto death, and then to live on forever, a paean to beautiful love for the glory of humankind. Such is the highest aspiration of my art. Having offered up heart and soul to the universe, devoted to this mystery of artistic creation and mindful of all that is here in this very moment, I invite you to stop and see for yourselves.
A Bouquet of Love I Saw in the Universe is the first comprehensive retrospective in Germany of work by Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama. The exhibition is an extensive retrospective of work by Yayoi Kusama, spanning more than 70 years and various media. The exhibition aims to broaden our understanding of Kusama's work to include her lesser-known European years, whilst also presenting an expansive overview of her entire oeuvre. The exhibition includes a newly realized infinity mirror room and a newly commissioned site-specific work for the atrium. Among the late paintings are also works that are shown for the first time. Right now we're in the installation, A Bouquet of Love I Saw in the Universe, a massive installation in the atrium of the Gropius Bau Kusama did especially for her exhibition here. It's in our atrium, so it's the first thing our visitors see. And you have this wonderful 16 tentacles growing up into the ceiling. The highest one is 11 meters. So the retrospective is covering 80 years of her work. We start with the very early drawings from the 1940s up to today. One of the exciting aspects of this show is really that we're recreating 8 of Yayoi Kusama's exhibitions. We're showing our visitors how Yayoi Kusama herself has hung and presented her works, from performances to paintings to drawings to sculptures to installations. And in the exhibition we will also show some archival materials and films she made over the last 80 years. Yayoi Kusama is born in 1929, and this exhibition in 1952 was one of her very early shows in her own hometown. She presented 270 paintings in one small exhibition, and you can see that already then she had decided as a very young artist to present the work in a way that she immerses her audience completely. So it's really unique that we're showing these very early work of Yayoi Kusama, like this painting here from 1950. And I'm especially excited about these works because you really see how she engaged with kind of botanical motifs, how she looked at flowers, and how the work basically she now is painting is really connected to these very early two-dimensional work. Our exhibition calls attention to Kusama's work in Europe and Germany. Kusama's work was first shown in Germany in Leverkusen in 1960. In 1966, Kusama staged her driving image show at Gallery M.E. Thelen in Essen. It was her first step toward completely merging the surrounding environment with her own works to create an immersive experience. What you see here are parts of that installation with these figurines, which have the famous pattern of the infinity nets, as well as the furniture and the chairs, where you really feel that that idea of the infinity is basically overgrowing a whole environment. It is without doubt that since the late 60s, mid-late 60s, Kusama was very present in Germany and in Europe, and says herself that her activity here had an important impact on her own artistic development. So while she did important performances in New York in the mid and late 60s, she also realized one of her first naked festivals here in Europe, in the Netherlands, near Den Haag. And what I really love about this installation is that Yayoi Kusama herself engaged with it. We're showing also a film where you see Yayoi Kusama in this installation smoking a cigarette, which even has dots on it, and you'll have that cigarette right here in the ashtray. Kusama opened her exhibition Aggregation 1000 Boat Show in 1963. Visitors entered through a narrow, dark corridor. They emerged into a brightly lit room containing a large wooden rowing boat covered with phallic objects. These phallic objects became known as her accumulations. This exhibition was important because it was the creation of Kusama's first environment. Kusama was interested in literally merging with the works. She placed herself into her installations. This suggests a certain will to become one with the work. What's very characteristic for Yayoi Kusama's work is that she always showed herself in her installations. I don't think it's so much about, she wanted to be in it, to be seen, but much more to be a placeholder for the people who got to experience her work. So in a lot of these prints in the exhibition, we show Kusama in her work to really make the audience feel that it is about a very close connection between the body and her sculptures. And you see her here in one of her very first infinity mirror rooms, Phallus Field, where she's using the very typical form of the penis as a soft sculpture. And at the same time, she implements the polka dots, which also becomes one of her kind of signature forms for her entire work. Kusama launched her own fashion label in 1969. Her designs often featured polka dots, but Kusama did not simply enter the fashion world. She started many businesses too. Kusama once said, "Become one with eternity, obliterate your personality, become part of your environment, forget yourself." So one could say that Kusama has really preempted the selfie culture we're living in today. So this kind of being in it and showing yourself in a certain space is something which she has done from the early 60s on. So a focus of our exhibition here at the Gropius Bau are these immersive spaces of Yayoi Kusama. And she wants her audience to get lost, and you kind of wander around, look at the ceiling, the walls, the floor, and you can feel that infinite space which is opening up through the use of the polka dots, but also the mirror. She kind of realizes this feeling of disorientation, nearly dizziness. Kusama's installation with polka dots are shown all over the world, but this work really has a very interesting history because it represents the work she was showing in 1993 in the pavilion of the Venice Biennale to represent her own country, Japan. And that's so important for her because for years she tried to get recognition also in her country. It is thanks to the curator, Akira Tatehata, that was possible. For many years he was working on the fact that he can show her as the curator of the Venice Biennale in the Japanese pavilion. And if you look here through that hall, you'll see lots of illuminated, larger and smaller pumpkins on a mirrored floor. You see in the exhibition here at the Gropius Bau really that Kusama has that interest in creating a completely parallel world. And she started to do that in the 60s and continued to do that in the 80s. And the exhibition we're seeing here, that's the first basically room of the exhibition she did in 1983 in Tokyo in a building which was called Jardin de Luzen. And that show happened kind of roughly 10 years after she returned to Japan from New York. And what is so fascinating with this exhibition is really that she manages to take over 2 floors of that building. And you can see how she puts her work everywhere, in shelves, on pianos. And you also see in this exhibition her focus on painting again. Right now, I'm in the new work of Yayoi Kusama, her new infinity room, which she did for our exhibition here at the Gropius Bau. It has a beautiful title, which really also tells a story by itself. It's called The Eternal Infinite Light of the Universe, Illuminating the Quest for Truth. It's an installation where she, for the first time, finds a completely new form within the infinited mirror rooms. It's the first time that she's playing with these floating light balls, which are constructing the work only if you look into the mirrors. And so it becomes a real infinite universe of polka dots, stars, and in her case also every star who's basically the stand-in for a human being. Since the early 2000s, Kusama has focused on painting. Her most recent series of paintings she began in 2009. She loves to cover as much space as possible in any one room. So here in this last room of our exhibition, we brought together over 50 of her paintings. So her most recent work you can see in this space. And that was very important for Yayoi Kusama, and she was actually the one who defined the amount of paintings she wanted to show in this room, and also that it really has to be this all overhang to have the feeling we're completely immersed in this kind of visual language of her. And you really see all the different kind of languages and forms she has developed over the last 70, 80 years. What's especially exciting for us is that she decided to show her most recent paintings. So some of these paintings here are really only a few months old. And when I visited Kusama last time in Tokyo, she was just about to finish some of these paintings. And when I entered her room, she was sitting there and she kind of lifted her arms and she said, "Berlin, Berlin." And she was very excited to show these new paintings. And so now you really, in this room, you really see works she's just finished a few months ago. We at the Gropius Bau really look forward to welcome you personally to see this exhibition with about 300 works. For you, we put together a retrospective, which is the most comprehensive which has ever been done in Europe of Yayoi Kusama's work.